Hello, Tommy.
Hey, Kristen.
Yeah, welcome to Hong Kong.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's really nice here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here today. You've deeply involved in Polkadot ecosystem. Creating the ChaosDAO, founding the OpenGov.watch. That's what a significant journey. So let's start by the beginning. What sparked you to create ChaosDAO?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so back then I was just active on Twitter, posting, hanging out with the community, and I was looking around in the different community Discord servers, but there was only project-specific Discord servers, and there was no general community of people that talk about general stuff and just everything. And I was looking around for a few weeks, couldn't find anything. And then I just created a Discord server. And I reached out to 10, 20 people and just asked them to join. And there was no specific idea. It was not the idea to have a DAO or something. It was just to make a community Discord server. Yeah, and then people got together, and the first thing we did is just because in the beginning I was very nervous. I was thinking, are people gonna accept the community? Is the server going to live or not? But it turned out the people came back again and again and again. And so we started introducing ranks. So we had, for people that came regularly to the server, we made up the rank regular. And so then after, if they were hanging out for a long time and they were contributing, we made them Daoist. And over time, the whole community began developing more and more identity. And the interesting thing is it was very engaged and smart people that were all making sure to push Polkadot forward as an ecosystem. And so this gave us a very strong group identity where we made sure that we can help each other, and it made everyone very proud. And then we had these NFTs, the profile pictures coming up. And so these were the ChaosDAO apes. And so our group identity was strengthened by this too. And then over time, different projects developed where we were starting staking to a server or running validators and having like other fun initiatives where we did things. We educated people when there was malicious proposals, and then over time, OpenGov, when OpenGov launched, ChaosDAO also started to participate there.
Okay, and ChaosDAO was, elected as the decentralized voice consecutively for 3 times. Do you have some, tips? How to get the trust from Web3 Foundation and the community all the time?
Yeah, so the Decentralized Voices program's idea is to involve as many community members as possible in the decision making and to bring the discussion into the public, to have this public discussion about all the issues. So I think the reason why ChaosDAO was selected as a decentralized voice 3 times in a row is because they participate in a lot of discussions, and there is also, it's a fairly big community where people engage. So I think what you can learn from that, if you have a community DAO or any kind of group, is to make sure that your group people educate each other. People maybe have specializations, things that they like. And it's about this active communication with the overall community, highlighting issues, maybe pointing out problems, and also just having fun and making cool things in the ecosystem, right? Because I think what brings an ecosystem forward is when people just, they have ideas and then they follow up on this. And I think the great thing about crypto and blockchain is it's this big canvas of things where we can do stuff and we can run experiments, right? And so I think having a community that has an identity and that just does interesting stuff and is a valuable group for the whole community is the thing that makes a DAO valuable.
Okay. Building on that success, but some people argue that frequent re-election may cause the risk of decentralization. So what do you guys say on this comment?
Yeah, I absolutely think that. So in Austria's political system, where I come from, you have a term limit for certain roles in government, and I think this is something that you should also consider for decentralized voices, where you say you can run for some time, but then you should take a break. And I think over time, as more and more communities are evolving, there is also space to give voices to different parts of the community, right? So I think ChaosDAO is a valuable community in a Polkadot ecosystem. And for the longest time, it was the only big community. But now I think we see other big communities rising up, or other communities rising up. And I think the Decentralized Voices program also is an incentive to invite people to group together in communities. And so I think from time to time it makes sense also even for ChaosDAO to take a break. And then other communities can take the turn, and it's an ongoing process.
I think people love what the work Chaos did. Let's talk about the proposal pinpoint. The many users, who submit their proposals, they are frustrated about, get rejected, but without some actionable suggestions. So how do you say this, kind of a black box pinpoint?
Yeah, this can be a serious problem. I think there's two sides to it. So on the one side, the proposer has to make sure that they listen for feedback and they actively approach people to get feedback. And on the other side, I think it's important for voters to also provide feedback. Typically what you see is that not every voter and every big whale is providing feedback. But at the same time, on major proposals, you see feedback. So it's maybe not the same people that provide the feedback and that are voting, but typically every big issue is discussed. So for any kind of proposal that is there, someone will mention this problem and that problem and that problem. And over time, you get a feeling of, okay, why would people agree or disagree with this? In the end, it's crypto, and the nature of crypto, the root of the word crypto means hidden. So everything that happens in crypto can always have a hidden nature where not all information is revealed. So engaging in Polkadot, or in OpenGov, there is no right for any proposer to receive the funding, right? In the end, it's the decision of the stakeholders, and they might decide to reveal their reasons or not, and to reveal themselves or not, and that's part of the whole game. So, yeah, I think as a proposer, typically, even if you don't get the feedback from that one person that voted against, there is enough people participating that you can get a full picture of all the reasons why something is accepted or rejected.
Is there some systematic, method to solve this problem?
Do you mean as the proposer? Or how we can solve this as a system?
Yeah, as a system.
As a system, yeah. So I think what MakerDAO was doing was very interesting. So in MakerDAO, you have these voting groups. And a voting group can stay in the dark, so to say. So what they created are incentives for voter groups to come into the public. And so especially what they do is they say, if you are a group and you make your platform, basically a program, a list of your policies, and you make it public, and you regularly update your policies and how you're going to vote, and you're going to vote by this policy, we give you extra visibility. So they are visible in the delegation dashboards, and it gives these groups, these delegation groups, it gives them more visibility, and so they can receive more delegations. So, and then another incentive that they get is basically access to people that are working for MakerDAO and producing data and information and dashboards. So they basically get some services from the MakerDAO executive branch, additional data, additional visibility, and sort of small benefits and incentives. And the idea is this pulls the discussion into the public, because all these delegation groups are now in public and they are discussing in public. Mm-hmm. And I think the general idea always has to be, how can we create a system where the game gets more interesting if we discuss it in public. So it's a game theoretic approach and creating incentives to pull everything into one open space. And then some voters may still decide to be in the background, but you at least get a rough picture of everything that could be considered.
Okay, cool. And you also created the OpenGov.watch, which aims to improve the user experience of OpenGov. Mm. So, what changes have you made, and or did you come up, made the most impact to this OpenGov system? Mm-hmm.
So, what we want to do with OpenGov.watch is we want to help OpenGov grow up. Because OpenGov is a very young child right now. It's 1.5 years old, or maybe it's approaching 2 years. Mm-hmm. And building a governance system together is a complex task. And we have people from different backgrounds, from different cultures, from different political backgrounds and understandings and opinions. And building community and governance together is culture. It's a cultural technique, and so it has to develop over time. Many political systems have been existing for tens or hundreds of years, and they are all constantly evolving. And so what we can do is we don't have to reinvent the wheel and reinvent everything from beginning. We can take inspiration from other political systems and look at what is working well and what is not working well. And the things that are working well, we can take inspiration from. So one example is OpenGov. There is a voting happening, and then there is the execution happening. And so we can draw a line and say everything that happens before the vote, it's the legislative component. It's where the laws are being made or the decisions are being made. And then everything after the vote is the executive part. It's how the execution happens. So the first question is, what do we want to do? And then the second question is, how do we want to do it? And so this is a traditional concept from, politics, legislative and executive. But by looking at it this way, it helps us to see that these are two different branches and it's two different set of problems that we can solve separately. And I think introducing such language into the discussion and such concepts and mental models helps us to develop a shared language and a shared understanding of how we are doing all of these things. And so it's about developing structure and processes for all these things. And this happens all by itself. So it doesn't need OpenGov.watch so that there's structure and processes developing. For example, a very popular component in OpenGov is attempts at governance. But it's not set in stone, it's just a very useful thing, and this is why we as a community use Attempts at Governance, the YouTube show on the Kusamarian, as a forum to come together and discuss proposals. But at the same time, there's also other places. There's PolkAssembly, there's Subsquare, there's maybe the Polkadot forum. We discuss it on Twitter, on Telegram, and I assume many other channels. And so all of these things are part of this evolving nature of how we negotiate. So this is on the legislative side. And then on the executive side, we, for example, have bounties. And bounties originally was just the idea, we want one specific thing to be done, and this is what we put money on the table for. But also bounties have been evolving, because sometimes they are, for example, the events bounty, there is no specific one thing planned, intended to be done, but rather we say there is some money and it should be spent on good events. And so people constantly innovate and come up with new ideas of how to do this. And I think the thing how we can make sure that it's developing in a good way and also fast is by observing it, describing it, see what is working, what is not working, and developing the whole discussion. Because there is also other blockchain ecosystems that are having governance, and I think it's good when they take inspiration, but it also pushes us to be constantly innovating and making sure we continue to lead the way.
Yeah, observation and then improve. So during this, observation and improve, process, what is the North Star, when balancing the efficiency of proposal and the decentralization of OpenGov?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you basically have to ask, what is OpenGov serving? Is it Polkadot the core technology? Mm-hmm. Is it Polkadot the network that is running? Is it the DOT token? Or is it the ecosystem? And so I guess everyone has a little bit of a different answer. For me, the answer is that it's the whole ecosystem. Because Polkadot is not just the technology, it's also the people and the communities and the protocols that are working here. And Polkadot cannot be only successful as a technology if it is not used. So, but the way it is used, it's very real, represented by you, by me, by everyone who is participating. So, but that makes it very complex, because now we have to ask, okay, what is good for Polkadot as an ecosystem as a whole? And I would say the North Star is understanding, first of all, what makes a Web3, like Polkadot as a Web3 ecosystem, an autonomous organism. So an organism that is not dependent on the Web3 Foundation, on Parity, or in any other company or centralized entity. So quite often what you see in other ecosystems is that they have a foundation and that takes care of business development and marketing and development and everything. And that makes the ecosystem very dependent on that one organization. And so you have to rather ask, how does the ecosystem have to develop that it is taking care of all of these functions by itself? How can it do marketing by itself and development and business development and operating the network? And OpenGov is doing a lot of these things really good. It is paying for developers, it is paying for the network operations, and it is also investing, the treasury is investing in business development and marketing and research and talent, growing the talent pool. And so I think the North Star has to be to get a holistic understanding of everything that the ecosystem needs to take care to survive, and it's a constantly evolving understanding. It's not static. And yeah, so the ambition has to be to get a holistic understanding of everything and make sure to understand how much focus do we need to put on the different topics and where do we want to have a heavy focus, because this is the area that needs the most attention right now. And so every year, every month, this might be a different answer. Sometimes we need to focus on these things, sometimes we need to focus on other things. Last year, we were making sure that we can improve the whole marketing situation and make sure we have competent people there and a strategic approach. And right now, for example, I see that we have to be strategic about improving developer experience and relations to other protocols, building connections, building bridges. So this is my opinion. But then everyone else has different opinions, and so it's this constant negotiation. So I would say the second part is not only giving an understanding, but also developing culture. And this is, how do we treat each other? How do we talk? And how do we negotiate and how to improve the whole system? And it's a very interesting reflection, because technology should always be there for the humans and not the humans for the technology. So technology being there for the humans means that actually Polkadot is there for us, and it is helping us discover, when we have the tools and the freedom to create our own systems, how do we use them, and then how does it reflect back on us and how we work together and build a society together.
Okay, talking about the culture, sometimes the creator or the founder of this project plays a vital role in creating the environment or the culture of this project. But to a decentralized project, what's the balance? Is it we have to, is it important to have the leaders, always have the leaders, or how can the culture still exist without the founder?
Mm-hmm. You can start like this. So Polkadot is an ecosystem right now. Mm-hmm. You could take the technology, like let's say you have a new team, you take the technology and you create a completely new ecosystem. So the technology might be transferred, but then how it is evolving later, how it is developing, this might take a different path. So technology is never neutral, it's always embedded in a social system. Mm-hmm. So the culture and the values are defined by all the people that are participating. Now some people have more influence on the system than other people. So this is why typically you have this strong affinity to look at the founders, because a lot of people listen to them, watch what they are doing. But it should not fool you to think that other people don't have influence. Everyone has an influence because everyone can raise their voice and make others think about what they're saying. And I think especially in the decentralized space, it's important that everyone understands that they have a mandate to stand up and talk about the topics that are important for them, or maybe fight for the topics that are important for them, negotiate, discuss it, or just start building. So the great thing about permissionless systems is that everyone is invited and able to participate. And then interestingly, because it's the internet, it's more neutral. I wouldn't say it's completely neutral, but it's more neutral to where you come from. So your contribution counts much more than where you come from. And the things you do are judged by how much value it is adding to the whole system. So it's always a social system. It's always an evolving social system. But yeah, Polkadot has its own values, Ethereum has its values, Solana has its values, and yeah, it's not fixed in space.
Cool. And now for the human side, with 2 core team members in your team, managing OpenGov.watch and the technical fellowship meetings, how do you get everything, get everything done?
I would say it was especially hard in the beginning because we had to set up the weekly call on Twitter, the OpenGov office hours, then the monthly fellowship call. We have the free consultations, so if anyone has a question to discuss on OpenGov or how to make a proposal, it can go to OpenGov.watch and book a free call with us. And then we have the monthly governance report and the quarterly treasury report. And so, yeah, you're right. In the beginning, it was a lot. Some things over time become more routine. So many of these things are routine work. I mean, the treasury report and the governance report every month is still something fresh. Mm-hmm. But I would say how we try to focus it is that we have one specific campaign or initiative per month, or every 2 months. So we call them governance initiatives. So for example, for some time we were focusing on the marketing initiative or the UX bounty or reforming the ambassador program. So this is then where Jeepa and I decide to spend some time on and to focus on just that thing. But then after some time we also want to disengage again and focus on the other areas. So we have a list of all the things that we think is important to improve right now in Polkadot. And the list is changing from time to time, but we basically make a plan like 3 months in advance, where we say, okay, these are the things we want to touch in the next 3 months. And then we have a longer list of things where we think they should be done in the next 12 months. So it's basic project management in a way, then it's just making it practical and thinking about where do we put our attention.
Yeah, great teamwork. Your 2024 OpenGov recap made waves. If you had to assess, the health of 2024, what would you describe it?
2024?
Yeah, the OpenGov system.
Yeah, the health of OpenGov. It was an interesting year. I would say. So the thing is, you never want to have problems, right? So ideally, you live in a world where you have no problems, but this is not how the world is, right? There is always problems and things to learn. So OpenGov is a new system, and like a baby, when a baby doesn't stand up and it walks. You know, a baby stands up and it falls, and it stands up and it falls, and it tries to roll around and tries it 100 different ways. So OpenGov, in a way, similar, where it has these waves of focus. So, for example, when Kusama OpenGov started, there was a wave where everything was approved, and then there was a wave where everything was rejected, and then it became more differentiated. Then there was the Giotto era, where a lot of focus was on marketing. Then there was and so it is changing. And I think you cannot avoid having mistakes, so mistakes have to be made to go through all those learning phases. So the important thing is actually to make the right learnings when things go bad. And so I would say Polkadot OpenGov learned a lot in the last year. If you look at the final balance of the treasury, it spent quite a lot of money, but it also made some important adjustments to the inflation and how the treasury is receiving money. So Polkadot actually lowered the inflation, but from the inflation gave a little bit more to the treasury. So it has, I think, a more sustainable income now, and it should work together with so if you take the last year as a reference of how much OpenGov spent and the treasury spent, you could keep operating like that. I think the money needs to be spent in smarter ways. So there is, I mean, everyone always has disagreements, but I think I would say as a group of agents and contributors and participants, I think everyone learned something. Everyone has a better understanding of how to judge a proposal, and how to make sure that when a proposal is accepted, that it clicks together with the other stuff and has a better alignment. So I would say it was an interesting year, and it was a good contribution to the development of OpenGov.
Yeah, and is there any milestones that even surprised you?
So I'm not sure if it's surprising. So I think the era where we had this constant negotiation with Giotto was very interesting. I think I learned a lot. There was times when I very much disagreed with Giotto. There was times when I agreed with Giotto. But he was sort of dictating the conversation. Mm-hmm. So he was leading the conversation, because where he was throwing his attention, a lot of people tried to follow. And it was very interesting for me also to try to keep a calm head, to see when should I also follow the conversation and when should I not follow the conversation, and just focus on other things, because I think they are going to be more important in a few months maybe. Mm-hmm. So this was, I would say, interesting. Yeah, and then, I mean, it's a lot of small surprises when you think, oh, this gets accepted, or oh, this gets rejected, and maybe you wouldn't have thought that it's going to happen this way.
Yeah. The chain analysis proposal that got more than 100 million holders to participate.
Tokens?
Yeah, tokens.
Yeah. Participation can be quite interesting in terms of when does a whale show up or not. That can be interesting. Mm-hmm. So the surprises that you see sometimes is when, I don't know, nothing happens in the proposal, or you think it's going through, and then suddenly in the last moment a lot of nay votes are coming in, or out of nowhere a lot of aye votes are coming in. These are fun times.
And this report doesn't include the participation data. So how do you see the participation in the 2024?
Yeah, I tried to get a better feeling for that. For example, just asking how many people are actively participating in OpenGov. I would say it's more than 100. Mm-hmm. I think it's less than 1,000. So, as a rough approximation, somewhere in between 100 and 1,000. I don't know if it is 200 or 300. I think people are interested because they have also been asking, not everyone is not everyone can vote in OpenGov when they are staking in a nomination pool. So everyone who stakes in a nomination pool cannot participate in OpenGov right now. But people are asking, when can we vote, when can we vote? So I think there is a lot more people interested to vote than we actually saw last year in voting. So I'm interested to see how many more people will come in voting in OpenGov when nomination pool voting goes live. Yeah, and then participation rate maybe in terms of tokens. So on most proposals you see, I think, less than 1% of the tokens voting. Recently I saw a proposal where 12% of all the tokens were voting. Mm-hmm. So this gives you a little bit of a range of what you can expect to see. But typically it's, I don't know, a few dozen million tokens. So a few 10 million tokens.
Okay. What trends are you seeing in the future participation of OpenGov?
Mm-hmm. So two trends. One is I think more groups will form and participate. Mm-hmm. For example, what you don't see yet, but it could also be a little bit hidden, if you are a whale and you want to vote in OpenGov, if you're a whale, you're probably rich, and so you don't have a lot of time to look at everything that's happening in OpenGov. So, but I assume that those people could pay researchers just to look at OpenGov the whole time and then make suggestions and so. But you could see, I think, a lot of smaller, like medium-sized whales or so banding together, forming groups, or just all kinds of other groups. I think delegations is a feature that is still not utilized enough. Maybe it would help to give like a small incentive to people that get delegations. So for example, one thing could be if you have a nomination pool, you could like give a little bit of the share of the staking rewards to one person that is voting, or to a delegate that is voting.
And the second one is how to get more users to participate.
How to get more users? So nomination pools, I think is the feature that is launching now. So right now as we record this, it's going live on Kusama in a week. And then when everything is working fine here, if there is no issues found, then in the next release it's going out on Polkadot. And so, yeah, I think this will just unlock it for many more people to participate. And yeah, we will see.
Yeah, cool. With the 2024's lesson, what's the number one governance muscle that Polkadot have to strengthen in the following year?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think in a way it's OpenGov, yes. So on the executive, let's say it like this. When you look at every work that is happening in OpenGov, it's not just on the voting tracks. So for example, last year we had about 1,000 votes on the general voting track, but then there were 2,000 spans approved by bounties. So bounties were creating, let's say, 2 times the line items or the number of spans that were happening. And these were just actually the approved proposals. I think we see more differentiation, more work going into these subunits, into this executive units, so bounties, then the fellowship, the ambassador program, and how it helps us. It makes our minds free because we don't have to look at 1,000 proposals on a voting track, because a lot more proposals about events are going to the events bounty, marketing to the marketing bounty, DeFi proposals to the DeFi bounty, and so on. And so where OpenGov is coming to is to basically understand that ideally we just vote on high-level proposals. OpenGov has still the power to intervene in all the bounties if it needs to, but it should get a more zoomed-out perspective and make the high-level decisions. Right, so to go there, I think it's also a deliberate effort from everyone to participate and say we want to develop this structure, right? To form these subunits, and they take care of certain responsibilities. And so what we need for that to happen is the whole executive branch, we need enough competent people there. Because basically Polkadot can only spend as much money meaningfully as there is competent people to execute on it. So I think one need that we actually have right now is human resources or HR or getting people. And I think there's a lot of projects that should be done in Polkadot and in OpenGov, but we don't have enough people to actually do it. So this is, for example, is going to be my focus in March and April, is to set up this marketplace between people and interesting jobs and create some sort of a job market so that we can just find more people. And I think we have enough competent people in OpenGov right now that we can also sustain if we get completely fresh people that maybe don't have a clue about Web3 even. But we could get a handful of them and train them on a job, and they bring some competence that we might not have already in the ecosystem.
Okay, great. And thank you so much for your time and for sharing your insights on Polkadot, OpenGov, and the Web3 DAO. And hope you have a great time in Hong Kong.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.